The most painful kiss in the world. In June 2011, a photograph shocked the world, capturing the brutality of an unprecedented violence. The image showed a woman, blind and disfigured, her face covered with bandages, tenderly kissing her injured daughter, also forever marked by cruelty. But behind that photo that went viral, there is a story of pain, suffering, and injustice that still echoes, waiting for justice. Somaye Mary, a woman only 29 years old, lived in a small village on the outskirts of Tehran, Iran. For years, she endured hell within her own home, living with a man who treated her as property. Amir, her husband, a vengeful and possessive man, turned their home into a prison without walls. Subjected to constant humiliation, physical and psychological abuse, Somaye found the courage to take the first step toward freedom when she filed for divorce. But Amir, furious, responded with a cruel and direct threat. "If you leave me, you will never again have the face you were born with." On the fateful night of June 15, 2011, while Somaye and her daughter Rana, only 3 years old, were asleep, Amir prepared to fulfill his threat. With a bottle of acid in hand, he silently entered their room and, in a brutal attack, poured the corrosive liquid directly onto the faces of Somaye and Rana. According to Reza Mary, Somaye's father, the tragedy began with an agonizing knock on the door. When we woke up and went there, Abbas, Amir's brother, was desperate and said that Somaye had suffered an electric shock. But when we arrived, we found something we could never have imagined. Somaye's hair scattered across the yard. She was screaming in pain, saying she was burning. The neighbors were in shock, and Rana, the little girl, was screaming desperately. Somaye's skin was peeling off, and both mother and daughter's eyes were dilated, burning as if fire had consumed their very souls. The impact of the acid was devastating. Somaye, despite fighting for her life, was left completely disfigured. Her eyes, once full of life, were extinguished forever. Her face, once beautiful and expressive, became unrecognizable. Rana, the little girl, was also hit, losing one of her eyes and becoming marked for life. But the scars were not only physical. The emotional wounds left behind were ones that time could never heal. Somaye was rushed to the hospital, where she underwent more than 30 surgeries in an attempt to recover what remained of her body. Somaye's father, Reza, spared no effort. He sold everything he owned to try to save his daughter and granddaughter. The community solidarity was moving, but the government's support was nothing more than empty promises. Somaye suffered, and her daughter, Rana, did too. The pain was not just physical, but emotional, leaving marks no one could erase. After almost 4 years of battles against pain and disfigurement, Somaye passed away in 2015 at the age of 33, without ever regaining her sight or the appearance she once had. She died after a long struggle for life, but unable to escape the fate her husband had imposed on her. Rana, now an orphan, became the responsibility of her grandfather, Reza. She grew up without her mother, with a face that reminded her of the tragedy that happened that night. Somaye's funeral took place in her hometown, the village of Hemedabad in Kerman province. Her neighbors and friends paid their last respects to a woman who suffered in silence, but never stopped living for her daughter. And Amir, he was arrested, but the punishment was not proportional to the crime committed. Despite being the perpetrator of this unimaginable cruelty, He did not receive a clear conviction or the exemplary punishment the case deserved. Impunity became the real perpetrator of this story. Justice, which should have been the last line of defense, failed Somaya and Rana. And to this day, the promise of effective punishment remains empty. In 2019, a law against acid attacks was finally passed in Iran, but in practice, nothing changed for women. The system remains fragile, and victims of violence like Somaya still lack real protection. Somaya and Rana's case sparked marches, debates, and promises of change, but the results were scarce. Somaya is gone. Her pain, her dreams, and her hope for freedom were left behind, but her memory and Rana's suffering are still alive. Every look of pity that the girl receives, every word of comfort she hears, is a painful reminder of a night that can never be erased. The acid that burned their skin was not only physical, it consumed their futures, their families, and their dreams. The true tragedy lies in the impunity that turns a mother and daughter's pain into a statistic. Until when will a mother's love be expressed through bandages, tears, and scars? Somaya and Rana's case is a reminder that violence against women is not just a personal issue, but a societal one. And until it is treated with the seriousness it deserves, other Somayas and Ranas will continue to carry the marks of violence that never stops, but must be confronted, fought against, and eradicated.